Introducing Dragapult. When it isn't battling, it keeps Dreepy the holes on its horns. Once a fight starts, it launches the Dreepy like supersonic missiles. What's up guys, it's Mrjamvad and today we are back on the Pokemon Showdown server for episode number 1 of Team Building with Jam. Today's featured Pokemon is going to be Dragapult. So if you're interested in improving your team building game, I suggest you subscribe because we're going to be team building on a lot of Pokemon and nobody does it better. Let's keep it real here. So before I begin, I'd like to impart some knowledge on you guys. That way you're properly oriented when you start your team building process. Yeah, so let's get into it. The first thing I want to tell you guys, or the first thing I'm going to tell you guys rather, is before you hop into team building, you want to always have a goal in mind, right? If you hop into the team builder with nothing in particular that you want to achieve, it's very unlikely that you'll build a successful team, because teams are just built with goals in mind. Now that goal doesn't have to be a particular Pokemon. In this case we're doing a particular Pokemon. However, it could be something like, you know, building a team around a particular field condition. So field conditions mean something like Trick Room, or something like a weather, you know, hail, sun, rain. It could be around a terrain. It could be around a particular play style, being, you know, offense, balance, or stall. So there's several things you can build a team around, or maybe around isn't the best word, but you get the idea. There are quite a few things you can choose to focus your team on, but it's just important that you have a focus that helps the process go along a lot more smoothly. And the second thing I want to note is that each Pokemon, remember, a team of 6, I know it seems obvious, they're supposed to work in unison, right? They're supposed to work in unison to help achieve your goal, which is going to be ultimately macro to win. And each piece has to help whatever you're building your team around to win more times than not. That seems really obvious, but when you break it down like that, it helps the process a lot better. It helps you formulate your mind in a different way, because then you're viewing each Pokemon, each move, each item, each EV spread as a means to an end. The end is to win, and each tool is helping you achieve that goal. So it's just like, you know, you don't, for whatever outcome you want, basically you use the necessary tool for that. And the great thing about Pokemon is you can tailor each Pokemon to serve your needs. Yeah, so with that being said, we're gonna hop into the more popular sets for Dragapult, and then we're gonna hop into the one that we're gonna be building around today. So we're gonna hop into the team builder, and I have 3 sets in front of you guys. Now this is for Smogon OU, of course. If you play another metagame, then this won't apply to you. This is not for VGC. If you want to learn Smogon, then this is a great resource for that. Okay, so we're gonna get into the 3 teams, right? Actually, I missed out one important tenet: know your environment. In other words, know your metagame. It is very unlikely that you will know how to build a team if you're not familiar with your metagame. So 3 things: know your metagame, right? Know what you're trying to build the team around, and know that each Pokemon is a tool. Each EV spread, each move, everything are tools to achieve that outcome. Okay, that being said, let's get into it. So Dragapult, being Ghost and Dragon, he is pretty good. It's pretty good. Primarily what it has going for him is its massive speed stat, or it's massive. It's really high speed stat rather, and it's very diverse move pool. Dragapult learns a plethora of moves that gives it excellent coverage. excellent coverage, man. It is. Game Freak really took its time with this one, and because of its, I don't really do speeds in base tiers. I remember them by the numbers. That's how I always learn. But because it has 221 speed at 421 speed, level 100, of course. That's one of the fastest speeds you'll find, definitely in OU. So because it outspeeds pretty much everything in OU, most of the time it's going to be getting the hit off first, and that's huge because it's not the bulkiest Pokemon. So now that you have the background of the Pokemon, it's Ghost Dragon type, and let's get into the sets that are currently pretty popular. So we're going to be looking at the Dragon Darts set. That's what we're going to be building around today. The upside of this set is the fact that Dragapult is incredibly fast and has actually a fairly solid attack stat, going up to 372 with Adamant Nature. But with the great thing about with Adamant Nature, it still is so darn fast that even with an Adamant Nature, it outspeeds 99% of all the Pokemon currently in the game anyway. So it does not need the Jolly Nature to run the Dragon Dance set. Now you can opt for that if you just want to always be fast. However, for this set, I think the power is more important than the speed, because with Dragon Dance, you're going to be boosting your attack and your speed. So yeah, this set struggles with Mandibuzz. It struggles with, let's say, struggles with Mandibuzz. It struggles with Bisharp. In fact, let's show you the tier right now. It struggles with Bisharp. Struggles with Mandibuzz. It struggles with Bulk Up Korbinite. It struggles with Grimmsnarl being able to resist your stab, and its Toxapex can be annoying with Haze. But those are the primary things you're gonna find that give you a little bit of problems. To a lesser degree, Clefable, depending on its set. But definitely the aforementioned ones are the key ones. So the other sets, before I get into the team building, are the sub Will-O-Wisp Disable set that is running rampant right now. The main crux of this set is the fact that Ghost is such an amazing typing. And if you recall what I just mentioned, a lot of those Pokemon are physical attackers, meaning they won't appreciate getting Will-O-Wisp burnt. So a lot of its general switch-ins get burnt very early, something they don't appreciate. The only exception to this would be, well, two exceptions being Toxapex and Mandibuzz. Toxapex losing to this set because it can just go for substitute, because of the plethora of physical attackers that have risen, and a lot more so because of Galarian Darmanitan. Toxapex have been running max physical defense in this generation, and because of that, this allows Hex coming, a base 130 Hex from Dragapult, doing massive amounts of damage. That coupled with the burn, Toxapex is easily beat, and Toxapex can't do any damage to Dragapult, so it gets the substitute up, and Toxapex essentially always loses 1v1, and it's just very I was gonna say very unstoppable. This is a very dangerous set. Also, because of the disable piece, if you run into something that has one move to hit you and break your sub, and you disable that move, then you're able to sub again and then beat them down again. So very difficult set to deal with. We're not going to be building around that one today, but I'll get on into that one next. And last but not least, we have the Choice Spec set. It runs a dual stab with Draco Meteor, Shadow Ball, Fire Blast, and Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt generally is for Mandibuzz, because otherwise Spadef Mandibuzz, or just Mandibuzz in general, walls this set. Shadow Ball is the move you're going to be clicking majority of the time because it's so good, as far as it lacks resistances in the tier. But U-turn is also an option over Thunderbolt if you anticipate the mana buzz and you just want to gain momentum. That's something people also use. So those are the 3 primary sets. Didn't really mean for this to be a moveset video per se. But yeah, the set we're going to be building around today is the Dragon Dance Phantom Force set. And we're going to hop right into the team. Okay, so we have 2 teams. There are 2 teams that I built around the Dragon Dance set. The one you see the mouse over right now, and a more offensive version. I'm not going to be going into the offensive version in this. I'm going to make that one Patreon exclusive, so I'm going to do an episode where I explain the team building process and provide this team on Patreon. So if you're not a Patreon subscriber, definitely go down. It's only $3 to subscribe for a month. Gonna have loads of team building content. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely go check that out. But yeah, we're gonna be doing the more balanced team. And when you're building around a Pokemon, the reason it's important to know your metagame is because if you go in blind and you have no idea what you're supposed to be preparing for, remember, you're supposed to be achieving a goal. So if in this case my goal is to do as much work as possible, meaning sweep or do a lot of damage to the opponent's team with my Dragon Dance Dragapult, then I'd have to first be aware of the things that give me problems or give that Pokemon problems. The things that are going to impede you from achieving your goal, you need to know that first, because it's only then that you can know what tools you're going to need to support the Pokemon or the idea or whatever concept you're trying to build around. If you don't know the roadblocks, again, if you're not aware of the roadblocks, you're almost guaranteed wasting your time. Know the roadblocks before you get in that team builder. Know your metagame. So because I knew my metagame, I was aware, okay, well, Dragapult struggles with Mandibuzz, Dragapult struggles with Toxapex, as we mentioned, Dragapult struggles with Grimmsnarl, Dragapult struggles with Grimmsnarl, Bisharp. So those are a few things. So what I did was, well, because there are a couple ways generally how people go about stuff like that, right? So let's say we're gonna focus on Mandibuzz in this one as the counter that we're gonna ensure that we have a teammate that can support Dragapult sweep. So let's say we're looking for a teammate to help us support Dragapult for Mandibuzz, right? Generally, most people's next step is to say, well, Mandibuzz is weak to Fairy, Electric, Ice, and Rock, so maybe I'll put a Tyranitar on there. You know, I don't take too much damage from Mandibuzz's flying type moves or dark type moves, and I can hit him with a super effective Stone Edge, right? Well, kind of. Now that's fine in the case of it's something that you need to be able to take a hit for that Pokemon, so a defensive partner. Yeah, that's an okay thought process to have. Well, however, with an offensive partner, the issue with thinking like that is the opponent won't stay in. So while Tyranitar, yes, you're correct in thinking Tyranitar or whatever Pokemon you put on there that supports that other Pokemon's type weakness or does super effective damage versus the Pokemon that is in the way of the Pokemon you're trying to have win. I know that's really wordy, but I want it to be very clear. Before you can do that, right, the Pokemon likely has its own teammates that are there to help protect it against things that it doesn't do well versus. So let's say in the example of Mandibuzz versus Tyranitar, Mandibuzz is not going to just stay in and allow you to Stone Edge it, right? So that doesn't solve the problem of it being an impediment to Dragapult, because while you have something that can do damage to it, it won't stay in. So that doesn't solve your problem. What I recommend generally is to go about it in two ways, called you have one called the overload method or the bait method. The overload method is when you use something that Pokemon has to switch into, and you essentially sacrifice one of your pieces to severely weaken that Pokemon. That way the Pokemon that's in the back, otherwise known as a teammate, is now free and open to get past the remainder of the opponent's team because you sacrificed a piece. So an example of that would be, let's say, actually let's use this example right here, because that's exactly what I did. So in this case, we're using Aegislash here as that role. So Aegislash, very common switch-ins to Aegislash are gonna be Mandibuzz, they're gonna be Bisharp, they're going to be, well, Bisharp, depending, you could die to close combat or Sacred Sword. So take that part with a grain of salt. They're gonna be Toxapex at times. So because I put a Pokemon that has very similar answers, like Dragapult's answers and Aegislash answers are very similar. So what I decided to do was, rather than have something that does super effective damage to them, I'm going to have something that they feel comfortable switching into. And then I'm going to, in this case, run Metal Sound. So Metal Sound is here. So when the Mandibuzz chooses to switch in, we hit it with the Metal Sound on switch, right? I EV'd it to be faster than Mandibuzz, faster than most Mandibuzz, right? That way, push comes to shove, if the Mandibuzz isn't at full, you can hit it with the Flash Cannon before the Mandibuzz gets any damage off. And the upside to that is, if you're not faster than the Mandibuzz, because you're gonna be in your shield form, you're not gonna be taking very much from the knockoff or the foul play. And then this enables you to go off for a Flash Cannon. Now Flash Cannon's calc does, I believe, 76 minimum, which is an 87, I believe, maximum, to a max defense, max HP Mandibuzz, which is the one set that's going to be able to take Dragapult's Dragon Darts. So if it's especially defensive, obviously Aegislash does less, but Dragapult does more. So these two work in unison to assist in aiding each other get past their own barriers. So that's what I meant when I said, using the overload method. Now we also have something called the bait method. I believe that's what I referred to it as, and that's when you use that same principle. However, you have that Pokemon have a surprise move that destroys general checks. So an example of this would be if I had Head Smash on Aegislash. That would be me going a different route. I have an abnormal move, knowing that Mandibuzz tends to be people's Aegislash switching. So me anticipating the Mandibuzz, I go for Head Smash and remove that Mandibuzz, which opens up Dragapult. So that would be the bait method, and in this case we're using the overload method. So we're going to maybe even allow Aegislash to go down, that way Dragapult can get going. So that's the explanation for these two teammates. King Shield and Leftovers are there just for longevity. This is not the type of set that's aiming to sweep anybody. It's there, remember, it's a tool. It's there to bait in Toxapex, Metal Sound. It's there to bait in Mandibuzz, Metal Sound, hit them. And it can be used in a plethora of other ways as well. So it can be used versus defensive Korbinite. So bulk up Korbinites can be subjected to this set as well, on the off chance that it's not mirror armor. So be wary of the mirror armor sets. This can also be used versus Rotom forms. This can be used versus Seismitoad. Metal Sound, because it's not an offensive move, it keeps you in your shield form so that you can take pretty much any hit afterwards. Now we're pretty fast, so it's not the bulkiest set, because we want to be able to get that hit off versus the Mandibuzz first. But again, it serves the similar role. And no team is perfect, so I haven't even tested this team yet. I just put it together. How team building is supposed to work is you amend the team. And so you build a team, you hit the ladder, you play. If you notice faults, you go back to the team builder, and then you alter it to solve or better solve the problem you keep running into, without like losing too much of the essence of what you initially wanted to build around. You cannot counter everything. However, you can do a pretty damn good job of making yourself at least somewhat protected versus most things. But yeah, that was just a little caveat. So we have Aegislash and we have Dragapult. So the next member I added was Dugtrio, and the reason I added Dugtrio in this case was because, well, if we remember the aforementioned Pokemon that Dragapult struggles with, on that list were 2 Pokemon that are grounded and 2 of them were weak to ground. So Bisharp, Dugtrio can trap and remove, and Toxapex, Dugtrio can potentially trap and remove. So and then a couple more. There are a couple more uses to it, but we're not going to focus on that as much right now, because it also helps with Tyranitar. Tyranitar isn't a counter to Dragapult per se. However, you know, it can come in, and be quite annoying. Grimmsnarl is also something that Dugtrio can trap, and because of Grimmsnarl's very low defense stats, Dugtrio actually does a pretty solid job at doing pretty solid damage to him. Pretty solid damage. So that being said, right, also I forgot to mention, Metal Sound also assists with Ferrothorn, another thing that Dragapult could potentially struggle with. And you're gonna see how the other team members help assist with that. So Dugtrio is pretty simple. His role is to remove Toxapex and to remove Bisharp. Now, it's not necessarily you can deal with Bisharp without having to rely on Dugtrio. It really just depends on the team matchup. You could opt for Screech over Stone Edge. Again, the team hasn't been tested yet, so I'd have to run through a couple of tests to see which sets go best. And as you guys are using the team, you can see, okay, you know, I run into a little more of this. I don't use Stone Edge that often. So I'm going to go with Screech, or I'm going to take Reversal off, or, you know, whatever you see fit. Because Reversal really is there as a last ditch hit versus a Ferrothorn. That way we can open up Dragapult a bit more, because physically defensive Ferrothorn is very common right now. And that's something Dragapult doesn't enjoy facing if it can touch it, if it can use Gyro Ball. So again, the Stealth Rocker is going to be Dugtrio. The team doesn't really depend on Stealth Rocks. A lot of Stealth Rock weak Pokemon that matter at the time right now are running heavy duty boots. You know, in the case of Cinderace, Mandibuzz, Rotom Heat, so a lot Gyarados. So a lot of them run heavy duty boots. So oftentimes you won't even get the benefit of the Stealth Rock you tried so hard to set up. And because Magic Bounce is a thing, if you happen to be in on something that can switch, Magic Bounce is a thing as well as Court Change. So Court Change can be quite annoying. The upside of Dugtrio is that it is faster than Cinderace and is able to also trap that. So Cinderace is far less likely to mindlessly switch in, which frees up a lot more room for Aegislash. So that's another plus side. But yeah, so before I move forward, this team is considered balanced, right? Generally, you're gonna have a split. So this is the offensive half and the defensive half. Now, you don't have to go about a team like this. You can have 5 offensive Pokemon and 1 defensive Pokemon, 5 defensive Pokemon, 1 offensive Pokemon. It doesn't matter the structure of the team in that sense. It just so happens that I decided to build out this one kind of like that, just to have a foundation, because a lot of people don't really know how to team build. So as a foundational thing, I think as a starting point, because that's where I started, I used to build in like a balanced half of the team and an offensive half of the team. However, if again, the ultimate thing is whatever goal you want to achieve. So if you can achieve your goal with 5 offensive Pokemon in one wall, go for it, right? If you can achieve it with 4 offensive, 2 defensive Pokemon, whatever you feel like is going to achieve whatever goal you want, whatever outcome you want, go for it. Use it. Strategize. Don't feel obligated to stick to a particular pattern. This is just a starter pattern. It just so happens to work for this team in this metagame. So just want to put that out there. So in this case, we have Quagsire as the 4th member. Now, remember I said you have to know your metagame, and everybody and their mom knows how dangerous Dracovish is. Dracovish and potential rain team, so that could incorporate Scarf, that could incorporate the Choice Band set, whatever the case may be. Dracovish is no joke. And because of that, it almost forces, depending on your team comp, forces you to run something with Water Absorb or to run an Appleton. Your boy Appleton is slept on. Appleton coming soon. Appleton, Academy Appleton is our draft team name, so that's definitely coming soon. But in this case, you notice Quagsire is Water Absorb, and I actually forgot that Quagsire had the ability Water Absorb because the Unaware set is ever so common. However, I think that the Water Absorb set is far superior in OU specifically. And that's because Quagsire's defensive capabilities allow it to almost completely by itself shut down rain. So Barraskewda shut down, Dracovish shut down, Barraskewda, Dracovish. Sometimes you see Seismitoad, so that's not shut down because it could have Grass Knot, and Earth Powers, Life Orb Earth Powers can hurt. It completely shuts down the Rotom forms, so it's essentially Seismitoad, right? It's essentially another Seismitoad. Completely shuts down the Rotom forms, and can perform a similar role versus Toxtricity. Do not switch it into Boom Burst, but that's just kind of an outlier thing. So Quagsire is incredible, and the other thing, plus people tend to try to roll compress with Seismitoad. The thing Quagsire has over Seismitoad is far bulkier, and it has Recover. Recover is huge because Seismitoad's biggest issue is the fact that it can't heal. So because Quagsire has Recover, this allows it to do far better versus Pokemon such as let's see, Dracozolt is just bulkier, so it can wall Dracozolt for a longer period of time. Excadrill for a longer period of time, because not with every hit, it's not concerned about, oh damn, well, am I going to, I can't recover it, so that damage that I took is permanent. Obviously handles the Rotom forms. It cares a lot less about a burn or a status. Well, Toxic matters, but burn, because it has the recovery, so leftovers negates the burn, and at that point you're just focused on a recovery. Opted for Earthquake here. Now a couple options, but again, I haven't fully tested the team. Quagsire has access to Haze as well, so it can it can still perform somewhat of its Unaware role. In the case of, let's say you're gonna get 2 KO'd by something, or a Korbinite is boosting so too much, you played poorly, so Korbinite got to boost or something, you can haze their stats away. So Earthquake is not mandatory. A Dragapult starting to boost tries to Phantom Force, you haze, which allows you to take the next hit. Dragon Dance Tyranitar, you already walled that, but you can haze on that as well. Bisharp, trying to Swords Dance, you throw top that in haze as well. So again, a plethora of options. Be open-minded and be open to discovering things yourself, because you guys are my test people as well. So you guys are gonna come back to me, oh Jan, I know this team is gonna be dope, I can already tell by the metagame. But you're like, oh Jam, yeah, haze works really well, or I find that Recover when I or whatever, so very versatile Pokemon, very underrated in the current meta. And don't worry, your boy Jam's gonna transform the metagame. This is where the metagame will be defined on this channel. I used to do this all the time back when I was more active in the tournament scene. Literally, like Jam puts out a team, everybody's stealing it, everybody's everywhere. So it's interesting that people who've known me back then. I know it's kind of a tangent. That's why they were so excited to see me in draft league, because skill wise, you know, best of the best can go toe to toe with anybody. But generally, people who can play very well, sometimes they can build. It's rare that they can do both at a high level, and that's something that I was able to do back in my tour days, and we're bringing it back with team building with Jam. So Quagsire, you know, to couple up the defensive core, right? Quagsire, obviously, weak to only one typing in grass. So it's pretty simple to put on something that is grass resistant. I'm actually going to skip Korbinite for now and hop to Mandibuzz, because that's more of Quagsire's partner. Mandibuzz in this case is going to be a specially defensive set. It has enough speed to hopefully speed creep versus Life Orb Clefable and knock off its item, which opens up Korbinite a lot more, as we're going to go into in a bit. But yeah, that opens up Clefable quite a bit. I mean, Korbinite quite a bit when that is removed. But it also has a plethora of other functions as well. I feel like I've said plethora several times during this. But yeah, so knockoff in this case, I'm using U-turn over foul play, over taunt, and I'm pairing it with knockoff in this case because as I gauge through the tier, the things because of how the teammates are with this team, I don't foresee Mandibuzz foul playing too often. I don't see Mandibuzz being the main guy to handle situations like those. And if you position yourself right, you won't need to anyway. So I don't see it attempting to 1v1 a Gyarados or something, because we have a Korbinite and a Quagsire, assuming the Gyarados does not have Power Whip, right? So because it has to forego quite a lot to run Power Whip. Either that has no sub, or no taunt, no earthquake, no bounce, or it's 3 attack, Power Whip, no earthquake. Like, Power Whip isn't just a free slot. Very good, however, and I think as Quagsire begins to rise in usage, you'll see a lot more of that. A lot more of that. So that's besides the point. Anyway, so Mandibuzz here primarily is going to be our special sponge. That way we don't lose to, as we mentioned earlier, Specs Dragapult, right? Specs Dragapult definitely could pose a problem. It also helps deal with the Hex. Well, Hex set doesn't really do much anyway, but I mean, it doesn't do much in the sense of it's a solid set, so it's always gonna do work, right? However, the Hex set it helps for the Hex set to do a lot less than it generally would. The Hex set generally subs and disables anyway, so most Mandibuzz only running one Dark type move will lose to it. Now, if that set becomes super problematic, in this case we're running Infiltrator, that way you know, on those subsets you can still Dragon Dart through the sub if needs be. At best it's a speed type, but most of them are timid. In fact, all of them should be timid, so you're likely going to be slower. I just say play wisely around that set. There's no real counter in the tier for that at the moment. Obstagoon is the only thing that can come in comfortably, and then it just disables your knockoff. So that's just one of those, like, you know, meta defining sets that's out right now. So just be careful. I don't think you should run an Obstagoon on every team with 2 Dark type moves just to deal with the potential. Just play well. There are ways around it. You know, we're gonna talk about that, but yeah, there are ways around it. Yeah, just play well. You could also opt for Taunt, which would just help shut that down. Opted for U-turn here to help with Dougie a bit, because you know a lot of the things that Mandibuzz base in lose that. But I can see I'd put a slash taunt here. Slash taunt helps with that Dragapult set a lot more. It also helps with Ferrothorn, Corsola. Those things won't be able to mindlessly run around like Ferrothorn, Corsola. There was something else. Opposing Mandibuzz Opposing Mandibuzz, Toxapex, because T-Spikes are very annoying for this team. Yeah, I think those were the 3. So again, a case for taunts. The more you try it out, you'll see what fits better. U-turn might be better on the offensive team, whereas taunt is better on this one. The big thing with taunt for me, U-turn for me, was because this is also a pseudo Hydreigon check. So because it can U-turn and break the sub, hopefully. Maybe I need to EV it to make sure it always breaks the sub. But it doesn't need to break the sub, because you can always go to Dragapult and Dragon Dart through because it's Infiltrator. But that's just something to be mindful of. I'd be wary of that. We'll find the right combination of things, and that's why the team has to work in unison. And then the last member, and that's, remember, the Quagsire counterpart. A lot of things that come in on Quagsire that it doesn't enjoy, Mandibuzz plus Korbinite deals with. If you notice, I have a lot of dual types. I have 2 ghost types, I have 2 steel types, I have 2 ground types, I have 2 flying types. Typing, you don't have to, oh, I need a grass type, I need a fire type, I need whatever gets the job done, use it. Whatever gets the job done, use it. That's why I mentioned that in the beginning. You don't need to be married to any particular way of thinking. What's effective is what's used. So anyway, Korbinite, in this case, we're going to be going with the substitute Brave Bird bulk up set. I went with this because, one, Korbinite is arguably the best Pokemon in the metagame right now. Just ridiculously versatile, insanely bulky, and it can do it all. Like, it truly can do it all. It gets everything it needs. It gets agility if it needs that. Does it get Sword Dance? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't need it. It has bulk up. It gets Hone Claws, bulk up. It gets Nasty Plot. It gets Heavy Slam. It gets Flashkin. It gets Iron Defense plus Body Press. It gets Roost Recovery. It gets Dual Screens. It gets damn Tailwind. It gets U-Turn. It gets Taunt. It gets Fake Tears if it needs that for whatever reason. It gets Metal Sound. It gets Power Trip. Like, the thing is just incredible. So it's debatably the best Pokemon of the generation for sure. Definitely top 3. And this set in particular is incredibly lethal. Most times a person's answer is going to be a Toxapex or a Rotom Heat. In the case of Dugtrio trapping Toxapex, that's obviously out the way. And then the next best is, again, generally Rotom forms, which are Quagwald. And I run a lot of speed on this one just in case the Rotom is defensive. Because what you then do is you sub before it can Will-O-Wisp you, which then forces it to Volt Switch. And if it can't Wisp you, it's going to have a very hard time killing you. Because then at that point, let's say it's fully defensive Rotom Heat, it can only Overheat or Volt Switch out. And if it's not one of those two being in versus Korbinite, not very many other things can deal with this thing without having blood drawn. So, yep, that is the squad. That is the Dragapult squad. And because Dragapult is such an interesting Pokemon, while this was built around the Dragon Dance set, the team is structured to be very flexible, meaning a lot of the pieces can be altered. So I actually considered Lumberry on this to guarantee the trap on Toxapex. That way, even if it burns me, I get the Lumberry, and I then remove it anyway, just to avoid the burn chance, because that could be annoying. That's the one caveat with Dugtrio. It needs to not get burnt. So Lumberry is an option. You'd have to play a little bit differently if you go the Lumberry route, but again, modify, edit. Dragapult, you can substitute this set with the Sub-Hex set. You could substitute this set with the Spec set. The team is such a holistic team that you don't have to feel glued to any one set. You can play around with the Corviknight set. You can play around with the Aegislash set. So for the 3 more offensive setup type Pokemon, those sets are malleable. And remember, you know, as I end this incredibly long team building video, remember when you get in there, man, when you hit that team builder, like, you're supposed to be excited about it. Like, it's amazing that we can, like, it's incredible. It's one of my favorite things to do, to come up with like a team of 6 individual Pokemon with their own personalities, you know, being natures, their own stats, their own moveset, and they come together and they're just working in unison. It's like the modern day Liverpool, man. Like, I'm a Liverpool fan, so shout outs. But it just works, and when you see that work in a solid way, and I truly believe when the right sets get sorted out, because I'm going to test this team myself, live coming with this team tomorrow or later today, depends. When you see that and you see a meta defining team just putting in the work, it is just a beautiful thing to know that you had a part in that. And if you want to have a part in that as well, get building, my guys. Make mistakes, and again, make mistakes. Make mistakes, alter. Make mistakes, alter. That's the nature of team building. That's the only way to get good at team building. Make mistakes, alter. I've made a million mistakes. I'll go test this right now. I'm probably a ton of mistakes there, but I'll learn from them and I'll alter it. Make mistakes, alter. That's all there is to it. So that being said, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button down below. If we get up to, let's say we get up to 500 likes on this video, then I'll put out a different Dragapult team built around the sub-hex set. So, and then I'll make that one public. As for the other Dragapult team that I built, that will be exclusive. The offensive version will be exclusive to my Patreon viewers. I definitely got to put out content so that team building video or live and several other team building videos are going to be exclusive to them. Also, my Wi-Fi content is probably going to be Patreon exclusive. So if you want to, you know, if you enjoy my content and you want to support me, definitely go pledge on Patreon. The link will be in the description. If you want to just get better at your overall play, battling wise, then also click the link in the description. I have a book out that teaches you step by step from beginner to mastery, everything you need to know. The chapters are sectioned out to where you can jump to whatever level you're at and get learning excellent stuff. And if you just want to get start learning in general for free, then I have a Discord group that you can join. Amazing community, no community like it when it comes to helping each other get better at competitive Pokemon. Just a welcoming community, no elitism, nothing like that. Incredible community, so definitely join that as well. And with that, I will say farewell. So I feel like I'm forgetting something. Yeah, Patreon, subscribe, Discord, and book. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.